My name's Jennifer. I'm going to be doing your talk for you today about growth mindset. And I am an early childhood educator. I've also been teaching online since 2015, so going on to a few years now. I have a complete fascination with the brain and how the brain works. I developed this fascination when I was in school. I was actually studying to be an elementary school teacher and switched programs or switched streams a little bit partway through, like a lot of us do. But I had to take a psychology class in my first semester. And that psychology class completely changed my entire approach to learning and studying. It gave me the idea of how I could learn best instead of what I needed to remember. So, and I kind of wished, at that point, I wish I'd learned this earlier. If I'd learned this as a child, I could be a genius because I would have been learning like this my entire life. So that's kind of the idea that came out of this was growth mindset. I didn't know it was named growth mindset at the time. I just knew that I needed to be teaching children about their brain instead of following, sit in your chair, listen to what I say, do what I say type regime schedule. So I switched out of the early childhood or the elementary school program, and I ended up studying and becoming an early childhood educator, which the curriculum for early childhood is much more flexible and much more hands-on and play-based learning, which kind of fit what I'd learned about in school as being a good way to learn better. Now, I found out about growth mindset after I kind of had developed the same or similar idea. And it was awesome to find out that it had a name and kind of had a whole community built around it already. And the person, I feel like I could relate to Carol S Dweck, who's the person who coined or came up with the term growth mindset, because she also kind of fell into this by accident too. She was, and I have her book here. I'm going to read a little quote from it for you. So she was actually working with children to see how they overcame challenges. And when she was doing her study, she was shocked when she had students who approached these really hard questions with statements like, "Oh, I was hoping for a challenge and I was hoping this would be informative." And she wrote in her book, "What's wrong with them, I wondered. I always thought you coped with failure or you didn't cope with failure. I never thought you loved failure." So this idea of failure being a good thing and being something that you can grow on and extend on only happens if you are approaching intelligence the right way. Carol came up with two different types of mindsets. One is the growth mindset, and one is a fixed mindset. So a growth mindset sees intelligence as dynamic and something that is constantly changing throughout your life. And the fixed mindset sees intelligence as static, something you are born with a certain level of, and you're never really going to get much better or worse than that. This way of thinking, either way that you think, it really changes your approach to life. If you have a growth mindset and you fail, it's not a big deal because you know that intelligence is dynamic. It's something you can change. You can always get better at what you are struggling at. But if you have a fixed mindset, you think that your intelligence is set. So if you fail, you see that as a failure of your own ability, a failure of you, not as an opportunity to learn. Really, really big difference. Slight different change in thinking. Now I'm going to talk to you about the brain. So I have a little brain model here. It's a lot of fun. I can actually take it apart, which is pretty cool. You can also find pictures of the brain online. Lots and lots of pictures and coloring sheets. So you don't actually need a model to learn about the brain. But I'm going to show you some of the main parts of the brain using my model. So the brain has three main parts. This part at the bottom is the brainstem. The brainstem connects your brain to your spinal cord. And your spinal cord is that bumpy bone that goes all the way down your back, ends at your tailbone, and it acts as a highway for your brain's messages. All the messages that are going out to your body need to travel down your spinal cord and then out your nerve cells to your appendages, to whatever part of the body you're trying to send them to, and back in again. So it has an important job because it connects you to your spinal cord. It also keeps your vital organs running and keeps you the things that you do not need to think about going. So your heartbeat, your lungs, your digestive tract, all of that is controlled by your brainstem, even your reflexes. So if you ever touch something that's hot, pull your hand back. Thank your brainstem for not letting you get burnt too badly. This part here looks like a little mini brain. It's called the cerebellum. The cerebellum is in charge of your posture and your balance and your coordination. Your cerebellum and your brainstem are both really old structures of the brain. We see those very strongly developed in older animals, older species like reptiles have very developed cerebellums and brainstems. And then the last part is this big wrinkly part, which makes up, the majority of the human brain. And it is the part that processes everything that comes in through your senses. And it's also the part that houses your personality that you use for logic and problem solving. And it's highly developed in mammals. Now, the cerebrum is broken up into more parts based on what the different parts do when scientists and psychologists have looked at what parts of the brain are used for different activities. So this part here actually sits just above your ear, and that's easy to remember because it is for hearing. It's called your temporal lobe, also close to your temple. The part in the back here it processes your sight. And your eyes actually connect. You have an optic nerve that connects right underneath your brain to the back of your brain and to your eyes. Your eyes are in the front here, and the part that processes sight is in the back. This top part, is the parietal lobe, and it processes sensations. It actually has a whole map of your body on it. So if you touch something and you feel it's bumpy or soft or hard or cold, that's the part of your brain that's processing that information. And then in the front is your frontal lobe. That should be pretty easy to remember. It's a straightforward name. And in the very front of your front is your prefrontal cortex. The front of the front. Your frontal lobe together works to control your body movements and also to control your personality and your thoughts and your problem solving, and the prefrontal cortex is the part that's controlling your problem solving and your thoughts and personality and all of that. Now, inside the wrinkly part, there's a bunch of structures that make up the limbic system, and the limbic system is the part of your brain that controls your memory and your emotions. Okay, so I'm going to show you a neat trick that allows you to have a brain model with you anywhere you go, and also is a great way to teach children about their brain and what their brain does. So I want you to take your hand and hold it up in front of you, kind of like you're saying stop. Now put your fingers together. And your thumb is going to represent your limbic system. So that's the part that helps you with your emotions. Now, I want you to fold your limbic system in. Remember, it goes inside your brain. And fold your fingers over top of it. Okay, now you have a brain. Kind of. So see how your fingers kind of look like wrinkles? That's the outside of your brain, it's all wrinkly. And in the front is the prefrontal cortex. That's your decision-making part of your brain. Now, your limbic system and your prefrontal cortex work together. Your limbic system decides how you feel, and your prefrontal cortex decides how you react to that feeling. Guess what? Your prefrontal cortex is still developing well into your adult years. So the reason why you notice your child is more emotional is because they're still developing this part of their brain. That's why they're more likely to maybe push their sister instead of asking for help or saying, I don't like that. And we need to be teaching them again and again appropriate ways to act and how to use this part of their brain. Your limbic system is really important for, well, we said your emotions. It's also really important for controlling or helping you if you are in an emergency. So your limbic system helps you with fight and flight. So fight and flight are instinctive behaviors that we do if we're scared. We either try and get out of the scary situation by running away or trying to escape, or we fight to protect ourselves, right? So think about getting chased by a tiger. How are you going to react? Probably run away, unless you're cornered. Now, we don't need to run away from tigers very often in our daily life, but we do need to get out of car accidents and fires, and there's emergency situations that come up that we do use this for. And we don't need to be planning things through so much. We just need to get out and get safe, right? So that lets us react really quickly to the situation, get ourselves safe. It releases adrenaline so that we can have that kind of superpower, go, 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 move faster than we've ever moved before. And it works by itself. But we want that when we're in an emergency. We don't want that when our sister steals our toy, or our brother steals our toy, or a friend pushes us. We want to be in control in those situations because we don't want to just lash out and hurt someone. So we want this to work together with our limbic system in those situations. So we need to teach our children how to use this part of their brain instead of just using this part. So I'm going to show you how you can teach this to your children. And you can use the same language and teach it the same way I have. I teach 7 to 11-year-old psychology, and I use all of the scientific words with them. Some of them pick it up like nothing. Others won't really remember the words. They just remember what the parts do, and that's fine with me, but I'm still introducing them. So if you have a child who's 7 years old or older, or even younger, you still could use the real words if you want. You go ahead and use the real words. You can introduce this exactly like I have. You can print off a picture of the brain and talk about the parts just like I have with you. If you feel like you want to start simpler, I'll show you a simpler way to do it, especially if you have a really little one. My oldest is 3, so this is the language I use with him. Get them to do the stop like I did with you, and put their fingers together, and then tell them that this is their security guard. So that's a little pet name you can use for the limbic system. The security guard keeps them safe in emergencies. Tell them to fold their security guard in, and then tell them that this front part of their fingers is their thinking brain, and their thinking brain helps them figure out how to react and what to do. And then tell them that when their thinking brain works together with their security guard, they get very calm and good reactions. But when their security guard works all by himself, it's good in an emergency, like if they're running away from a tiger. But if it's because their friend has taken their toy, then it's not a good thing to work all by itself. And sometimes the security guard is a little bit overprotective and might jump into action when they don't need the security guard to be working. So then they need to tell the security guard to go home and take a rest. And how they do that is they take some deep breaths. Until the security guard is back inside his home in the brain. And then they'll be back in control again. Something that you need to know and understand about the brain is that your brain is plastic. What do I mean when I say your brain is plastic? Do you think I mean that it's literally made of plastic? Probably not. Even my 7 to 11-year-old students usually know it's not actually made of plastic. But what it means is that your brain is moldable and that your brain can change. I want you to do an activity with me. I want everyone to get out their phone, open your camera app, and take a selfie. Now, tell me, has your phone changed? You might be surprised to know that your phone has actually changed. Your phone still looks the same, still the same shape. It doesn't have like a picture bulbing out of it on the side. But you have this little memory card inside your phone. And that memory card has a new picture stored on it. If your phone didn't change, guess what? No picture. You wouldn't be able to see that picture. So, and you probably have noticed before that sometimes you run out of space on your phone. That happens to me a lot. I take a lot of videos of my kids. And you're trying to take a picture and, it doesn't change your phone. It doesn't save because you run out of memory, right? So you can't make that change on your phone. So if your phone doesn't change when you take a picture, your picture won't save. You won't have that picture. Just like our phones, our brains are constantly changing. Everything we do, everything we learn, everything we see, everything we remember is stored in our brain. And it makes a physical change to our brain. If it didn't, we wouldn't remember anything. Okay, so brain plasticity. There's physical changes that happen to your brain with everything you do. Everything you learn, everything you see, everything you experience, every show you watch changes your brain. And you're completely in control of that. Your brain changes throughout your entire life. So there used to be this belief that once you had reached a certain age, your brain wouldn't change anymore. Do you know the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? That's where that saying comes from. It's not true. And if you talk to any dog trainer, they're going to tell you, I can teach an old dog new tricks. Because it's not true. You can teach an old dog new tricks. You can learn something new at any age. Your brain is changing throughout your life. It would be silly if it stopped. We wouldn't be able to function very well if our brain just stopped changing and stopped learning. You have probably experienced things at work that you've had to learn, you've probably learned new things along with your children. Your grandparents, your children's grandparents have probably learned new things along with them. So our brain can absolutely change at different ages and stages. It can take longer to learn something if we are older. My grandfather now has a Facebook account and has just started to figure out how to use social media. It's taken him a long time to learn, but he's learning now. So you need more time if you're older. That gets me to my next point. Brains are at their most plastic state when they are young. So your child is at a really amazing and plastic state with their brain. And it makes sense because their brain needs to develop and change and grow right now. That's their brain's main job at the moment, is to learn and grow and get ready for, set the stage for adulthood eventually. So anything you teach your child now, your child's going to be able to learn it faster, learn it more fully, and they're going to be able to, it's going to really change their brain structure very easily because you're building it into the foundation as their brain is still growing. Really awesome time to teach something like growth mindset. Let's talk a little bit about neurons. So I have a little neuron toy. Isn't he cute? And my students like to point out that, hey, neurons don't actually have eyes. Which, no, they don't actually have eyes. But it's a cute little addition to my little neuron plushie. Neurons are brain cells that connect your brain from one part to the other and also connect your brain to your body. And they send messages through your brain and through your body. So we make neural connections whenever we learn something. We're going to do a little experiment together. I want you to take a piece of paper and get a pen or pencil or something to write with. Okay. And I want you to draw a line across it. Okay. We're going to pretend that that line is a new neural connection that you've made in your brain because you've just learned something new. Now, learn something else, and something else, and something else, and a whole bunch of other things. Lots of connections. Now I want you to find that first line again and go over it. Your connections get thicker every time you use them or you repeat the same activity you practice. So if we draw a whole lot of lines over the same spot, we end up with a very thick neural connection. Guess what? Thicker neural connections, easier to use, faster to find. If you have a thicker neural connection, you're going to be better at doing the thing and understanding it that you've built that connection on. If you don't do something for a long time, that connection will get thinner and thinner and thinner until it eventually disappears. That's why if you've learned, let's say, French 5 years ago, but you haven't used it since then, and you try and speak it, it's not going to be super easy. It's going to be hard. You're going to have lost a lot of those connections that you built 5 years ago when you first learned it. If you practice, then that connection will be thicker and thicker, and it will be easy for you to speak it. Now, the nice thing is that there's always going to be some neural connections that we keep. Okay? So there's always going to be some that are left over that we don't get rid of. And that means it's easier for us to learn that thing again if we decide to pick it up 5 years from now. We kind of have to start over in some ways, but it'll come faster than it did the first time. So the takeaway from this is practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better. Okay? Practice makes you better. And that's a good thing because perfect is a fixed mindset word, right? It means that there's a ceiling and you either reach it or you don't. Whereas getting better, if you get a little bit better and 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 a little bit better, who knows where that ceiling is going to be? You control your brain. Choose to let it grow. And stick around a little bit longer because I'm going to talk to you about some easy things that you can actually work into your routine at home to encourage your children to develop a growth mindset. So now we're talking about how to foster a growth mindset. So one of the easiest things you can do, and very, very powerful, effective things, is change your child's language. So my 3-year-old has been into this phase recently. I can't. I don't know how. Add yet to their sentence and get them to add yet to their sentence. So every time they say I can't, tell them yet and get them to repeat that. I can't yet. And you're going to notice a shift in their mindset. When you're saying I can't, stop. That's a fixed mindset. You either can or you can't, and there's no in between. The light switch is either on or off. But that's not true. Ability is more like a sliding spectrum. You are here right now, and you want to be here. So keep going until you get there. So when you say I can't yet, it means I'm somewhere along this spectrum. There's not a slight switch. It's not an on or off. And I've noticed a huge difference in my son since we started using yet in his language too. The next thing is change your own language. So instead of using things like good job or you're so good at this, you're so smart, that focus on the child's ability, try focusing on what they've done and what they've accomplished. Like, I like the way that you drew a circle, or find something to compliment. Not only is that gonna give them an idea of what they can build on, it's also more genuine than just good job, because we say good job to all sorts of things with our children. Oh, you drew a scribble. Good job, I love it. But if you take the moment to actually look at it and choose something you like. You drew a scribble. I love that you used blue. That's Mummy's favorite color. That's going to be better. It's going to show them that you actually genuinely like something about their scribble, right? And for, my 3-year-old's developmental level, scribble is very good. It's very good learning. Instead of you are so good at this, you worked so hard to get here, encourages them to work hard for the next thing, right? Instead of just thinking that they're good. Instead of you're so smart, you never give up, encourages them to keep trying, that they've built something to get to being so smart. Instead of you make this look easy, your hard work paid off. Look how quickly you figured this out. So the emphasis on what they've done. I'm so proud of you, change to I'm proud of how hard you worked. And again, focus on what they've done. They've worked hard to get there. Now, don't beat yourself up if you start saying good job. Don't think, oh, I'm a bad parent. I'm not teaching my child a growth mindset because I told them good job. Good job is still great. It's still good. It's still telling them that you're happy with them. It's still positive reinforcement. And it's much better than not saying anything at all or saying, oh, what is that scribble, right? It's still a good thing to say. But I like the way being descriptive is better. So every time you find yourself saying something like good job, just think the next time, okay, I'm going to use something like, I like the way that you, or add to it. Good job. Oh, right, I need to add something. Oh, you drew a circle. That's a perfect circle. Perfect circles are hard to draw. Add to it, right? And then it's, you're not just stopping at good job. Teach your children about their brain. So we've talked already about the Dr. Siegel's hand-brain model and how to teach your child about their brain with your little models that you can carry around with you everywhere. Practice that with them. I've got a handout for you. So it's going to have a diagram of how to do that hand-brain model. So if you don't remember it, don't panic. And you can either teach them the actual names of the brain, or you can teach them the simplified security guard and thinking brain. It depends on your child's developmental level. Read about the brain. There's some free online websites where you can read about the brain. I have some links to some really good ones on that handout. There's a couple of really awesome books out there. I wish there was more, which is why I wrote one. So there's my book, and I'll have a link to that as well for you to find it. And yeah, the more you read about the brain, the more you understand the brain, the better your child's going to be able to use their brain. Draw a picture of the brain. When you draw something, not only does it activate some really awesome areas of your brain, it also that lets you understand what parts of the brains are there and what it looks like. And you can talk your child through the different parts while you're drawing. If you have a really young child, do a coloring sheet instead. If you have a older child, you could even try doing a model of the brain using plasticine or clay, and make the brain instead. So, you can modify it a little bit. And then make Jello. So Jello is actually the way the brain feels is very much like Jello. So Jello is a fun activity to kind of get hands-on with the brain. Depending on your child, you might, joke around, oh, it's brains, if they like that sort of thing. Or you might keep it a little bit calmer. Oh, this is what a brain feels like. Isn't that cool? And you can actually even buy molds, brain molds that you can make Jello in. You can also make them yourself. So you can, fashion a brain kind of shape out of tinfoil, stick that in a muffin tin and fill it up with Jello and make little mini brains. All right. And then the other thing that I really encourage you to fit into your schedule is activities that are really good for the mind, really good for learning. So some things to keep in mind when you're looking for activities that are really good for your child's brain are try finding something that's new for your child to learn that they haven't learned before, because we know that repeating things is really good to help you learn them better, but learning something new works the brain out in a different way. You're going to have to, there's a lot of problem solving and figuring out when you're learning something new. It needs to be challenging for your child. Not too challenging that they get frustrated, but if it's too easy, you're not getting a good brain workout. It's just like if you do a physical workout, if it's too easy, you're not working your body out as much as you should. So same with your child. Make it something that you can expand on or build on. Some really great ideas are musical instruments. You're never done learning. Art projects, art like drawing and painting. You're never done learning. You can always get better. Basically, anything you make or you do with your hands, you can always improve on. Those kind of skills are really good to help your brain develop, because there's no ceiling, right? You're always able to get a little bit better. And choose something your child enjoys. So it's not even just that they're going to want to work harder, they're going to have more fun, it's going to be less of a struggle to get them to do it. It also actually activates, when you enjoy something, it activates a whole bunch of regions of your brain that help your brain grow and develop optimally. If you are miserable doing something, the right parts of your brain is not activated. Thank you so much for joining me. I had so much fun going through this all with you. I hope that you find it helpful, and go out there and expand your brains and your children's brains. So like I said, that there's a free download that you can find. It's got a breakdown of the hand-brain model and how to teach that. It's got some ideas for things that you can read that are child-friendly to help them learn about their brain. It's got a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw a brain. And it's got a little idea for making a Jello brain for you. So have fun with it, and go expand your brains. Bye.